Well, it's the Say What podcast. We're back. We are back. Now, we got new digs, and we coming to you live from, what do you call this place?
We're not really live.
Studio. I mean, we're live right now. By the time you see this, it will not be live, but now we've got this new Grove studio.
Yeah, we've been off for about a month, I'd say, on podcast.
Yeah.
Maybe a little
month?
bit. Summer,
maybe?
Yeah, a little bit, but we were working on a few things, and my man JT put together this, and Jason Weaver helped big time, but man, this place is incredible.
Yeah, I'm so excited that our podcast is back, and it's like I was telling you earlier, it's worth the wait.
Yeah,
a lot of folks have been saying, "What are y'all going to do? When's the podcast coming back?" And it's good to be missed. But then when you come back and we got something like this, I mean, look, man, this is pretty sick. So now this is going to be a real podcast. Like, I fussed about it. You guys, JT was like, "Forget it. I'm not videoing another one until we can go full podcast." So now, the way I understand it, we're going to have live video, or not live. Why do I always say live?
Yeah, I don't know why I do live.
I guess because I'm live.
You'll be able to get on iTunes now.
So now you're going to be able to do an actual podcast on iTunes.
And we'll still have our videos.
And so if you go and you download this podcast, you won't get to see all this amazing studio stuff.
Yeah.
But that's okay. You can watch it on YouTube because our channel will still be up.
Channel will still be there.
Still be doing Say What on there.
Mm-hmm.
But then we'll also have the Say What podcast on iTunes.
Just make it easier for everybody. They don't want to go run and do something, just listen to us while they're driving, whatever, they can be listening to it.
So this whole new studio, did I mention JT did this?
Yes.
Did I mention that? Did I mention our friend Jason Weaver was here till like 1 o'clock in the morning?
Yeah.
Did I mention we had a bet going today that they said in the office that we would not get our podcast done today.
So JT worked till after midnight.
After midnight.
He was not going to lose this.
I think he was the first one into office today. And
he was.
So we still had to push on a little bit just because we were trying to beat that bet because I didn't want to buy lunch next week. But Jason Weaver, JT, and then you kind of got sad. You said you had something to do with this.
I did, yeah. The top board on our new wall up here.
Yeah.
I put the very last board on. I held
the very
it
last or very first?
Very last.
Oh, she just kind of whipped it in the driveway.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So I just felt like I should get a little credit for it.
I think you should.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks for that board.
Yeah, and I stayed here. JT did the work, but I stayed here in like moral support until 1 o'clock in the morning. So I was here. There's
a lot to be said for that moral support.
Yeah.
I was he was painting and hanging stuff, getting wires run, to make sure lighting was okay for our inaugural Grove studio.
I just got fussed at. I keep wanting to touch the mic, and that's not allowed. So
yeah, well, you can't touch the mic, but we can talk into it.
Yes.
So that's what we're doing here. So it's a Grove studio Say What podcast. It is back on. We're doing it on video, and we're doing it here on iTunes. Download this app, and it's going to be great. So,
we had an incredible summer.
Yeah,
right?
Great summer.
Y'all got us. If you only tune into the podcast, man, we've had a huge summer. Been nonstop, doing all kinds of different things. Just started a new series called Stretched.
Yeah.
What you gonna say about that?
Well, so since we last met for the podcast, we've had a lot of stuff going on. A lot of folks have been asking about it. So we kind of waited till we came back from summer vacations and that kind of stuff to start our podcast with a new series. We got a lot of stuff going on this fall, but as we were kind of rolling into August, I began to you begin to think about where you are as a person. Back to school, even today a lot of kids went back to school. A lot of folks, their kids started kindergarten for the first time. My kids started 8th grade. And so literally today was their last ever first day of middle school. It's kind of weird for me.
You're getting old.
That's not what that means.
Kind of.
Not really.
They're getting older, you're getting older.
Yeah, but why would you take away the excitement for my kids? Make it all about me. I'm not going to do that.
No, I'm excited for your kids. Your kids are going to have a great year.
I've been walking with Christ this summer, and I've been learning I am second, so I appreciate you pointing out how old I am. But this is all about my children, so we'll get back to that. But so I'm getting older, like my gray hair, I'm having to cut more and more out. But as you think about that, you think about stress, and you think about a lot of times people say I've been on vacation, but now I need a vacation from my vacation, and so they come back and they go back and they're waiting for that 1 week that they'll be away. And so for 52 weeks out of the year, or 51 weeks out of the year, you wait for that 1 week to be away.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we know people that are gone a lot. I was sharing this a couple weeks ago in this series. It seems like our generation travels more than my mom and dad's generation. I remember when we went on vacation, it was once a year. That's it.
Once a year, that's all you got.
That's all you got. And you try to jam everything into that. Now, you might go camping. You might go do this or that or whatever. But most of the time, it was just once a year.
Mm.
So this generation, they travel a lot. They're gone a lot. They've got baseball. They got cheerleading. They got this and that and whatever. And so we just talk about how it just doesn't seem like that you kind of run as fluid as you used to. Now you're stressed all the time. We've got a generation that is stressed. And so our series this time is called Stretch, because we're talking about how God deals with your stress as opposed to how you deal with your stress. Because stress is either going to wear you out, wear you down, or it's going to build you up and strengthen you and enlarge you. And so how you deal with that stress and how you deal with what God's doing in your life is everything. So that's kind of what our series is about.
Yeah, you mentioned last couple of weeks, talked about David when he was talking about when he was going through hard times and he was stressed out, how God, he was focused on God through that, and how God enlarged him through that stress.
Yeah.
Got him through that.
Yeah. Have you ever been stressed?
Yeah, absolutely.
What stresses you out?
Just, you got all kinds of things going on. You got a boss right here who's always on your case trying to get you to do left and right. Yeah, you. Nah, I mean, just you got a bunch of things going on. A bunch of people pulling at you to go different directions. And just trying to get all those different things done. And sometimes it can stress you out.
Yeah.
And not that God didn't give me the power and the will to get through all that. But at times you get caught up in that and you want to slow down or back off completely. And in reality, man, God can get you through that, and you're going to be better after you get through that.
I mean, stress will absolutely wear you out, I mean, it'll kill you,
Yeah.
And so it's like this right now. We're doing our first ever podcast. We got internet in here, so now people that are in the office are shooting us, text messages like, we're on the air. We're trying to do some stuff. But stress, it's one of those things, when we start talking about stress and we start doing this whole series called Stretch, the real issue is that stress is not something you're going to be able to rid your life of. There's always going to be stress. There's always going to be stuff in your life that's going to stress you out. So when you as I was talking about vacation, you go there, you have a stress-free zone, man. You for 1 week, don't talk to me, don't email me, don't do anything. I'm not stressed anymore. I'm not dealing with anything. But then you come right back, so you got it. And so what we want to do is we want to look in this series and looking at stress. How does God enlarge you and make you bigger through the things that are stressing you out? Is it possible that what is stressing you out is actually building you up and not tearing you down? The whole time I'm stressed, my fear is I'm being torn down. My fear is I'm being worn out. But God says, let's use this stress to make you larger than you were. Right?
Yeah.
So that's kind of where we are and kind of what we're doing with stress.
And going along with that, a lot of times when you are stressed out and you do pull back and you pull away from those things, it'll take that stress away, but there's going to be other stress that comes right on top of that.
I mean, how many times have we said stuff like this? I don't have time to do that. I've got too much on my plate. We decommit from teams. We decommit from hobbies. We decommit from things that people ask us to do. We don't do missions. We don't go serve. I can't do that on Monday nights. I can't do that on whatever because I've got too much on my plate. Because, see, I'm stressed. And so the natural tendency for my stress is to cause me to shrink back, cause me to pull out of all this stuff. Mm-hmm. Only to find that when I try to alleviate the stuff that's in my schedule that I think is stressing me out, is exactly what you say. Then I have other things that stress me out.
Yeah, it's never going to go away.
So it's not about my time anymore, it's about my health. It's not about my health anymore, it's about my finances. It's not about my finances anymore, it's about my children. Every time I try to make a change in my stress to make the stress go away, stress comes in from somewhere else. It's like trying to catch water with a hole in the bucket.
Yeah. And you were talking about this on Sunday. You were talking about Jethro, Moses' father-in-law, and how he just gave solid advice to Moses, who was stressed out. Man, he was dealing with everybody's problems and then his own problems, and he was doing that every single day. So he got had somebody in his life that gave him just outstanding advice.
So we talk about stress, we use Exodus 18, right? So we're picking up, you've missed us on podcasts, you've missed our videos, and we're picking up in the middle of a stretch series, and we're just going to pretend you guys haven't missed a thing. We're going to pretend that everybody's been listening to all the sermons on ilovemygrowth.com. If you haven't, you check them out. Just a shameless plug, ilovemygrowth.com. But when you begin to look at this, what you understand is Moses is this phenomenal leader. We talk about Moses a lot. Has an incredible story that's broken down in like 40-year chunks, right? And God's using him. He is part of, seeing God deliver the people of Israel. He battles with Pharaoh, crosses the Red Sea. God provides manna from heaven. All these things. And then he runs into Jethro in chapter 18, and Jethro speaks into his life. And the whole thought on what we're talking about here is that in order to deal with the stressful moments of life, you have to be open to listening to people. Mm-hmm. We create these environments to where we don't allow people to speak into our lives. There's so much pressure on us when we get stressed out that many of us are afraid to listen to people. We're afraid to trust people. We're afraid to allow people that opportunity, be vulnerable enough. But here's Moses, this incredible leader, and he's not leading he's not like the CEO of like 200, 400, 500 employees. He's not the pastor of the local church. He's not a guy that's just got this podcast set up. He's not just like some missionaries down in the remote jungles. He's not that. Here's what he is he's this man who is the leader of millions of people. Mm-hmm. And it's not just millions of people, it's God's people. So he's like the leader of all leaders. Here he is early in the Bible. And this man says, I got to have somebody that can talk to me and share with me things that maybe I don't want to hear, but I need to hear. And that's not a natural tendency. People try to share stuff with me that I don't want to hear. Most of the time, I don't want to hear it. Yeah. Right? That's what I say. I don't want to hear it. Yesterday, we were all in the office and we were talking about some stuff, and I got ill. You were there. I was there. You made fun of me just a few moments ago before the podcast started. We got stuff that's on us that's stressing us out. There's some issues that have to be dealt with. And most of the time, when somebody speaks to you and you don't want to hear it, then you turn them off. And we've created that environment. We've created a culture like that. But Moses here shows us an exceptional understanding, which is you got to have someone that cares for your soul, and you got to trust them enough to speak into your soul. And when they speak into your soul, you got to react to it, and you got to take that. And so we see that in Exodus 18. Moses is listening to all the people all day long, and Jethro comes up and says, "All right, what you're doing is not good." Mm-hmm. He didn't say what you're doing is wrong. He didn't say that at all. He didn't say you're doing the wrong stuff. He said what you're doing is not good. That's two different things. It could be right and still not be good. Yeah. Right? So he's not saying you're doing the wrong stuff. He's saying what you're doing is not good. And he says that you're not doing it. It's not good because it's taking you from what you're supposed to do. It's making you stressed out. And your stress, and this is key, the stress that stresses you out. You may think it's just you that's getting stressed, but your stress stresses everybody else out. Yeah. If I come into the office tomorrow and I'm stressed, then everybody else gets stressed because they go, "What's wrong with him? What did he do? Can you talk to him? I don't want to talk to him." Blah, blah, blah. Or if you come in and you're stressed, and I'm like, "What is wrong with you?" Nothing. But you're stressed out, stressing me out. And I wasn't even stressed till you got here. You know what I mean? And that's what's happening at home. And you got people, you got moms, dads, kids that are stressed out, and nobody can talk to them. And we say, "Don't talk to me. Leave me alone." But you really need somebody to speak in your life. And Moses shares that with us. God says in Psalm 4:1, David says that you were enlarging me in my distress. And if you're ever going to accomplish big stuff, you got to be stretched through big stuff. So God stretches you through these things that we're stressing us out, so that we come out on the other side larger than we were when we went in. So the next thing that comes that stresses us out, we're not nearly as fearful of it. I've already been stretched. Let's go. Yeah. So that's kind of what we're talking about.
Talking about people that come in your life and speak into you. Talking about people that need to take care of your soul. And you got to have that. You got to have a mentor. You got to have somebody that just cares about your well-being and going to push you to get better and help you when things aren't going great. And you were talking about, I think this last Sunday, about different ways to take that counsel. You have to be able to receive counsel and move forward with that.
Yeah. So I'm 39. I'll be 40. You remind me of that all the time.
I do.
And I think, oh man, there we go. I'm hitting my mind. Yeah, I know. JT's going to kill me. I hope somebody can talk to him. So I'm 39. I've been doing ministry for a while now. Since I was, I felt God called me to ministry when I was 17. So 22 years into this thing. And then before that, I was already in church. And the problem is that I've grown a lot. There were times in my life that I wouldn't listen to anybody, right? And I still have that streak in me of just kind of being a maverick. I know I've got a son named Maverick, Just because somebody else is doing it doesn't mean I want to do it. And in fact, the thing that kind of sets me off is if I want to do something different. I want to think different. I want to act different. I want to do something. I'm not trying to be like anybody else. But the problem with that is that many times you can become very difficult to speak to. And that doesn't mean that you can't talk to me. You talk to me. It just means I ain't listening. And how many conversations have you just endured in your life and thought, good talk, man. Yeah. But you're not going to do one thing they tell you, right? We were talking about that a little bit earlier. People start talking to you and you're like, man, whatever. I mean, come on, man. But the older that I get, and here's been my ministry life is, I grew up in a church. I was, just absolutely sheltered. I came out of that, had some opportunities. I failed miserably in some of those. I did some hurting, and I hurt some people, and then I've been hurt. Mm-hmm. And then I've grown through those, and that's just been kind of my career, and so now here I am at age 39. I do a lot of listening. And you've been with me a while now, so a lot of times, especially when I'm perplexed or I don't know what to do, I'll make phone calls. I want to get other people's ideas on it. They speak into my life. It doesn't mean that I always take the advice, because sometimes it's just, no, that's not the right move. Yeah. But then sometimes I do take the advice, and I think that comes with time. That you have to mature enough to where you can allow people to speak in your life. When we talk about this, there's different types of leaders or different types of people you can't give advice to. One is the fact that they're defensive. You try to talk to somebody that's defensive, you might as well forget it. You can't tell your story to that person. You can't speak into their life. They're defensive. So you got to be real careful with that person. Maybe you're out there, you're trying to figure things out. You're trying to make something go. I know several folks right now that you can't speak to. They're defensive. Anything that I would say to them, they're going to think of it. They're going to take it personal. And it's like, it's not personal, man. I want to help you. So they're real defensive. They got a chip on their shoulder. And you might as well just forget it. You're not going to tell that. Right? You're not going to be able to give advice to somebody that knows everything. I mean, if everything that you say, they know something a little bit better.
Yeah, they've already done it.
Yeah, you ever been around that guy that one-ups you all the time? Like, like I can tell you, there's folks that I know that are just like, I know I'm going to have an incredible story. This is something that happened unique to me while I was on vacation with my kids, whatever, back in the day. And you throw that thing out there and they're like,
the exact same story.
Dude, you too? And it's like, not only did it happen to me, like it was 1,000 times worse, right? A honeybee got trapped in my shirt while I was driving, and it stung me 3 times. They're like, dude, me too, man. I had like a whole nest of honeybee building into the cab of my truck, fell down my shirt, just stung me like 14,000 times, and one of them had a knife. Can you believe that it actually had a knife? And you're like, what? You know what I mean? Yeah. And so there's people that are like that, and then the last one is people that's already made up their mind. There's people that have already made their minds up. You can't, just forget it. So when you start talking about Moses and you start talking about listening, you have people speaking in your life. The real question is, what kind of listener are you? Can you? Are you defensive? Like sometimes we say to each other, like around here, we built this culture where it's kind of like family, and we'd be like, easy, dude. Yeah. Okay, what are you mad about? You know what I mean? And I'm just trying to tell you something, but you're defensive. All right, you're trying to tell me I'm defensive. Or you're just smarter than everybody else and you're just putting up with everybody else, or you've already made your mind up. So, yeah, I mean, listening is the key.
Yeah, that's hard to do a lot of times.
I've had to learn how. Yeah. I'm not naturally good at it. I'm naturally good at smiling at you and going, okay, and then doing my own thing. Yeah. And that's when you end up getting in trouble, And so I think, in the past, 9-10 years, I've learned a great deal about listening.
I think it's key when you got to find that right person, those right people that you are going to be listening to, and just make an effort saying, I'm going to listen to these people, I'm going to take their counsel, and I'm going to apply it to my life.
Yeah, I mean, because, I'm raising teenagers. I just mentioned that a few moments ago, and there's been times where, I'm trying to speak into their life, and it's obvious they're not listening, and it's nothing that's, major, but I'll do this, like in the middle of a conversation, I'll go, you're not listening, and I'll walk off. And they're like, no, come back, please, come in, just tell me. And I'm like, I'm not talking so that you endure it, just so I get it off my chest. Like, I'm telling you this because I want you to hear it and I want you to apply it to your life. If I'm just telling you this, it might as well be a podcast. And then you can download it whenever you want. And I will literally walk away. And they're like, no, Dad, tell me. And I'm like, no, I'm not. Yeah, you just missed it. catch me on the way back through, you know? And I think sometimes the people, they think they're Moses. They have a Moses complex because they run a business, they stepped out in ministry, they've got God's calling on their life. I'm not challenging that. You do, whoever it is. They're going to do this, but they are not a Moses. You can't talk to that guy.
Yeah.
You cannot. And then they're a victim. Victims can't be talked to. Everything's somebody else's fault. Defense. So I can get fired up about that, but we don't need to do this whole podcast. I love mygirl.com. You listen to the message. Yeah.
And then so this has been a great couple weeks of messages. What are we doing this week?
Well, so this past week I was talking about when counsel's not received. Mm-hmm. And you have this story of Paul and Barnabas and John Mark. And so one of the things about Paul and Barnabas and John Mark is that John Mark, and this is incredible, and you need people, listen to this, I hope people are listening. There are people right now, their life is falling apart. I see it. You've seen it. Mm-hmm. Their life is falling apart because they've gotten stressed. They've gotten stressed, not because they're stressed, but because somebody else got kicked out of whack. And because somebody else got sideways, it puts stress on their relationships, and now it's going to mess them up. And most people don't realize this is when someone's trying to speak in your life going, and we do this a lot, like, what's up, man? What's going on with you? Or somebody may ask me, what's going on with you? Nothing. Defense. Well, I'd like to talk to you. No, I'm good. No better. Well, let's grab it. No, I've already made my mind up. The problem with that is you're sitting in a situation to where if you refuse good counsel, it's going to lead your life to obscurity. And so you have this case where Paul and Barnabas were set out to go do great things for God. The Holy Spirit says that they were called by the Holy Spirit. They get on this mission and they bring John Mark. Mark ends up writing the book of Mark, so he does some pretty great stuff. But in the midst of this mission, John Mark goes back home. Most of us understand that's because he missed his mom. It's pretty stressful on the mission field. John Mark goes home, so Paul and Barnabas continue to travel. But then when they get to a certain place, Paul wants to go back and visit some places they've already been, and Barnabas wants to take John Mark. Now remember, he left them. So Paul says, no, I'm not taking this guy. He deserved this once. And so Barnabas steps up, like a lot of people do. And they're like, no, we need to give him a second chance. We need to do all this other kind of stuff. And Paul's like, listen to me. I appreciate the second chance. I appreciate all that kind of stuff. But we're not going to do that. In fact, what we're going to do is we're going to go on without him. And Barnabas will not listen. Barnabas will not. He's doing all these different kind of things. He's dealing with, second chances and giving John Mark, he can do it, all these kind of things. And Paul's trying to tell him. The Bible says they get in this major disagreement. In that moment, they split up. Barnabas takes John Mark and goes on missions journeys. And Paul takes Silas. And I think the sad part about that, and I heard Brian Houston talk about this one time, but one of the sad parts about that is Barnabas goes off into obscurity. This man who is a great encourager, son of encouragement, is what the Bible said. He spoke for Paul when he was trying to get his voice heard. Mm-hmm. In fact, in part of Scripture, he goes looking for Paul, right? And the Bible calls him a good man. This man that had been called to go with Paul by the Holy Spirit, now, because someone else got sideways, and because he would not listen to the authority of Paul, does his own thing. And I'm sure when he left, he thought, I'm called, I'm doing it, it's going to be great, he's got the pass, and he goes into obscurity. We really don't hear anything else out of Barnabas. Mm-hmm. But the Bible says that Paul and Silas now are commissioned by the church. The church saw it. Who was right? I don't know. But what I do know is they didn't commission Barnabas and John Mark out, but they commissioned Paul and Silas out. And you hear all about Paul and Silas. They're in jail, prison, walls, and all this other kind of stuff. But Barnabas goes into obscurity. So you got to be real careful in your victimization, in your defensive tones, in your always knowing better, in you've already made up your mind. You will condemn yourself to an obscure life when God wants to speak in your life by people that love you and you should trust, like Moses, and explode your life into greatness. So this week, what we're going to talk about is how do you talk to yourself when you're stressed? There's a language that you speak when it's stressed. And so David gets stressed in Psalm 9. And while he's stressed, he talks to himself. I heard this said one time, and we'll wrap it up. When you're dealing with stuff, it's not so much that you should be listening to yourself as much as you should be talking to yourself. Mm-hmm. C.J. Mahaney said that a long time ago, and I've often quoted him. And the truth of the matter is when you're stressed out, most of the time it isn't what you're listening to yourself say that's going to get you through it. It's what you're saying to yourself. So how do you speak through stress? When I'm stressed, what am I talking about? What am I deciding to do? How I talk to myself and how I listen to myself determines my perspective. And my perspective determines how I walk through being stretched. Right? Yes. So this week we're going to talk about I will do what? Well, David tells us how we're going to do it. Oh, by the way, did you know this? I know I got to go. Satan said some stuff when he got stressed. In fact, when Satan got kicked out of heaven and he's on earth, there were some things that he said, I will do. You can have the right attitude when you're stressed of things that you will do, or you can have the wrong attitude of things that you'll do when you're stressed. So we're going to talk about that. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, I like it. It's good. I'm glad we're back. Just thank you for tuning in.
I missed you.
I missed you, man. We ain't seen each other on podcast.
Yeah, this place is pretty cool. So we're going to be coming at you every week now with our podcast. So as soon as we get it uploaded to iTunes, obviously you'll know that because you'll have downloaded this one. But all you all watching it on video, we'll give you that iTunes place, and you can go get it and download it. The place. It's in the store.
We'll get you the link.
The link. Okay.
You gotta go to the store to get the podcast.
You can talk to me. All right. So that's cool. Yeah. I'm glad we're back. JT killed it. Jason Weaver, you killed it. Kim Weaver, thank you for sharing your husband in the studio to make this happen. Tyler Brown, thanks for the board.
Put it up.
Yeah, and thank you to all of our friends up at Guitar Center for some awesome mics. They took care of us up there. So go visit your boys up there at Guitar Center. Man, check out the Grove. By the way, did you know our largest ever tailgate's coming up?
Yeah.
It's going to be happening. Football's back there. Football's back.
Rockwood Kingston game.
We're going to be doing it. All right. Love you. See you. Bye.